The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice. A tale. Every species remembers. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with voices. Hundreds of alien representatives sat in tiered seats that formed a perfect circle. Light from 3 small suns streamed through the crystal dome above. The chamber had seen 10,000 years of peaceful talks between space-traveling species. Laura Hayes stood at the entrance, straightening her Blue Earth Alliance uniform. She took a deep breath. As captain of the starship Intrepid, she represented all of humanity at this meeting. Humans were newcomers here, only accepted 50 years ago despite concerns about where they came from. Earth was classified as a Death World Class 12. This was the highest danger rating possible. Most council species evolved on gentle worlds with mild weather, few predators and stable environments. They could not understand how humans survived on a planet filled with earthquakes, hurricanes, deadly animals, and extreme temperatures. This difference made them fear and look down on humans. "Captain Hayes, they are ready for you," said her aide, a young lieutenant named Peter Garcia. Laura nodded and walked forward. Her boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. Every eye in the room turned to watch her. Some aliens had many eyes, some had just one, but all stared with the same feeling, distrust mixed with curiosity. High Chancellor Thrix rose from the center seat. He belonged to the Altharian species, tall, thin beings with blue skin and feathery antennae that moved with their emotions. His antenna pointed straight up, showing his formal mood. "Captain Hayes of Earth, welcome to the annual Trade Summit," Thrix said. His voice translated perfectly through the small device in Laura's ear. "We understand humans seek improved trade routes and technology sharing agreements." Laura stepped onto the speaking platform. A light shined down on her, scanning her body, and creating a larger image of her that everyone could see clearly. "Thank you, High Chancellor." "Yes, after 50 years of membership, Earth believes we have proven ourselves worthy of equal trade status," she said clearly. A soft murmur ran through the crowd. From her right came a small laugh. Ambassador Vizoth of the Arcturian Collective looked at her with his 6 eyes all showing amusement. His green skin wrinkled around his mouth as he smiled. "Captain Hayes," Vizoth said, "humans have only just learned to travel between stars. Most species spend centuries proving themselves before requesting equal trade rights. Your kind is always in such a rush." Laura felt anger rise in her chest but kept her face calm. Humans had learned long ago to hide their emotions when dealing with the Council, show too much feeling, and they would call you unstable, another reason to deny human requests. "With respect, Ambassador," Laura replied, "humans have contributed significantly to Council research and defense. Our mining operations in the Kuiper Belt alone have increased rare mineral trade by 20%. We simply ask for fair treatment." High Chancellor Thrix's antenna curved slightly. "The Council recognizes Earth's contributions. However, these matters require careful thought. We will form a committee to study your request over the next standard year. Always committees, always delays." Laura had expected this answer, but it still frustrated her. Earth needed better technology to protect its colonies. Strange ships had been spotted near the outer settlements. The Council knew this, but still treated human concerns as unimportant. Before Laura could respond, a loud sound cut through the chamber. All communication devices activated at once with the same message. On the large display screen above the Chancellor's head appeared the face of a Zanari, a crystalline species with delicate features that caught the light like prisms. "This is Governor Seleth of Zanari Colony Rigel 7, the figure said, voice breaking with fear. "We are under attack. Multiple warships have entered our system and begun orbital bombardment. Our defense grid cannot hold. We request immediate Council assistance. Millions will die if—" The message cut off in static. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Laura stepped forward. "Chancellor, the Intrepid is docked at this station. We can reach Rigel in 6 hours at maximum speed." Chancellor Thrix raised his hands for quiet. "Captain Hayes, I appreciate your offer, but Council protocol is clear. Non-interference until a full session vote and investigation determines the proper response." An older alien with rust-colored scales stood up. "The Chancellor is correct. For all we know, this could be an internal Zanari matter, perhaps a civil dispute. With warships? Laura asked in disbelief. The Zanari are peaceful. They have no military. Which is why we must determine who is attacking them before we act, said Vizoth smoothly. It would be irresponsible to rush in without facts. Laura looked around the room. No one seemed to feel any urgency. They were already forming into discussion, groups preparing for a long debate while a colony burned. How long will your discussion take? She asked. A tall, thin alien checked his device. If we follow standard emergency protocols, we can have a preliminary vote in 72 hours. 3 days? Laura couldn't hide her shock. The colony will be gone by then. Chancellor Thrix looked at her with something like pity. Captain Hayes, this is why humans struggle to understand galactic politics. Hasty action leads to greater problems. We have maintained peace for 10,000 years by following proper procedures. Laura stood still for a moment. In her mind, she saw Earth's history, full of wars and violence, yes, but also of people who ran into burning buildings to save strangers, who jumped into dangerous waters to rescue children, who stood against threats when running would be easier. She touched her communication badge. Captain Hayes to Intrepid. A voice answered through the room speakers. Commander Kelly here, Captain. Prepare the ship for immediate departure. Set course for the Rigel system. Maximum speed. Gasps filled the chamber. Chancellor Thrix's antenna stood straight up in alarm. Captain Hayes, you cannot intervene without council approval. This violates our most basic laws. Laura looked at him steadily. There are 3 billion Zanari on that colony. I will not stand by while they die. Your actions could start a war. This is why Deathworlders cannot be trusted with advanced technology. Vizoth shouted. Laura turned to leave but stopped at the chamber entrance. She faced the council one last time. For 50 years we've played by your rules. We've been patient, respectful, and careful not to frighten you with how different we are, but there's something you should know about humans, about Deathworlders. The room fell silent. We evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day. We survive because we protect each other. Not just ourselves, but anyone who needs help. That's not a weakness. That's our strength. She straightened her uniform. Consider this humanity's formal notice. We're done playing nice when lives are at stake. As Laura walked out, her badge beeped again. Captain, we're receiving distress calls from 3 other human ships in nearby sectors. They've all changed course to Rigel. Laura smiled slightly. No orders had been given. No central command had directed them. Other human captains had simply heard the call and decided to help. Tell them we'll meet them there, she said, walking faster toward her ship. Behind her, the council erupted into chaos. The day the Deathworlders stopped playing nice had begun. It was a day the galaxy would never forget. The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice. A tale. Every species remembers. The starship Intrepid rushed through space faster than light. Captain Laura Hayes stood on the bridge, watching stars streak by on the main screen. Her heart beat quickly, but her face stayed calm. She had broken the biggest rule of the Galactic Council. No ship could interfere in conflicts without permission, but Laura knew that waiting meant death for billions. Time to Rigel system? She asked. Commander Allen. Kelly checked his screen. 5 hours, 17 minutes, Captain. Laura nodded. Allen had been her friend for many years. He understood her decision without needing to talk about it. Any response from the council? She asked. Communications Officer Diane Powell touched her earpiece. Yes, Captain. 17 messages, all saying the same thing: turn back or face removal from the council. Laura almost smiled. And the other human ships? The Liberty, Valor, and Defiance are all on course to meet us at Rigel. Their captains send their support, Diane said. Laura felt pride warm her chest. 4 ships was not much against an unknown enemy, but it was something. Humans took care of each other. They also protected those who needed help. Deathworld lessons were hard to forget. Captain, Allen said quietly, coming closer so others couldn't hear. We should talk about what we're flying into. We have no idea who is attacking the Zanari or how many ships they have. True, Laura admitted. But we know the Zanari. Crystal beings who built beautiful cities and never harmed anyone. They have no weapons, Alan. Whoever is attacking them chose an easy target. Alan nodded. Bullies. Exactly. And there's one thing humans never learned from the Council: how to ignore bullies. The hours passed with tense preparation. In the weapon room, crews checked laser cannons and shield generators. In the medical bay, Dr. Sam Collins prepared for injuries. Everyone worked quickly and quietly. They all knew what breaking Council rules meant. If they survived, their careers might be over. But no one complained. Approaching Rigel system, Alan announced finally. Dropping out of FTL in 3, 2, 1, the stars stopped streaking. The main screen showed a beautiful green planet with 7 small moons. But something was wrong. Dark spots covered the planet's surface. Smoke clouds rose from the ground. Scan the planet, Laura ordered. Multiple fires in all major cities, reported Science Officer Jack Rivera, air quality dropping rapidly. I'm detecting bombardment from orbit. Laura leaned forward. Show me the attackers. The screen changed. 7 massive ships hung above the planet. Each one was 3 times larger than the Intrepid. Their dark metal shells had a rough crystal-like pattern. Red energy beams shot from their sides down to the planet. Those are Krell warships, Alan said in shock, but they've been silent for 300 years. The Krell were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. Reptile-like beings with hard scales and 4 arms. Long ago they had tried to conquer many worlds but were pushed back by the combined Council forces. Since then, they had stayed within their borders, rarely seen by anyone. The other human ships have arrived, Diane reported. Captains are asking for instructions. Laura stood up straight. Open a channel to all ships. Diane nodded, and Laura began to speak. This is Captain Hayes. You can see what we're facing. The Krell have returned and they're destroying a helpless colony while the Council debates. We are outnumbered and outgunned. I won't order anyone to fight this battle. She paused, then continued. But I know why you came. The same reason I did, because humans don't watch innocent people die when we can help. So if you choose to stay, know this: we fight smart. We fight together. And we don't stop until those people down there are safe. One by one, the other captains responded. Liberty stands with you. Valor is ready. Defiance will not turn back. Laura nodded to Alan. Battle stations. And hail the Krell ships. The crew rushed to prepare. Warning lights flashed as shields came up to full power. No response from the Krell, Diane said after trying to contact them. Then we make them notice us, Laura said. She turned to weapons. Control. Officer Ben Martinez, target the smallest Krell ship. Aim for their weapon systems only. Ben's fingers moved quickly over his console. Weapons locked, Captain. Fire. Bright blue lasers shot from the Intrepid, hitting the Krell ship, precisely where its weapons connected to power systems. At the same time, the Liberty fired on another ship's engines. The human vessels moved with surprising speed, darting between the much larger Krell warships. They're turning to engage us, Alan reported as alarms began to sound. All Krell ships have stopped bombing the planet. Laura allowed herself a small smile. Step 1 complete. Now they're angry at us instead of the Zanari. The space around them lit up with red Krell lasers. The Intrepid shook as its shields took hits. Shields at 82%, Ben reported. Continue evasive pattern, Laura ordered. Keep firing on weapon systems. The 4 human ships moved in perfect coordination, almost like a dance. They were smaller and faster than the Krell ships. Years of training in Earth's asteroid fields made human pilots better at quick turns and sudden moves. The battle continued for 20 minutes. Then something changed. Captain, we're being hailed, Diane said in surprise. By the largest Krell ship. On screen, Laura ordered. The main screen showed a Krell commander. His black scales shined under bright lights. 4 yellow eyes stared at Laura with cold anger. Human vessels, the Krell said, voice deep and scratchy. You interfere in matters that do not concern you. Laura stepped forward. The destruction of innocent lives concerns everyone. the Krell commander hissed. The Zanari refused to give us mining rights on their moons, they were warned. This is business, not your concern. Murdering people over business deals is not acceptable, Laura replied. The council, the Krell interrupted, with a sound like harsh laughter, is still discussing what to do. They will always discuss, they never act. This is why we returned. The galaxy has grown soft and weak. Not all of it, Laura said firmly. Withdraw your ships now. The Krell's eyes narrowed. You are 4 small ships, we are 7 battle cruisers. This is not a fight you can win, human. Laura smiled slightly. You clearly don't know much about humans. We're Deathworlders. We don't need to win. We just need to make winning so painful that you'll wish you never started. She signaled to Ben to cut the transmission. All ships, she said to the other captains. Execute attack pattern Delta. Target their main bridge and engine cores. The Liberty moved first, diving toward the lead Krell ship while firing constantly at one spot to weaken the shields. Then the Valor and Defiance hit the same spot with torpedoes. A bright explosion marked their success as part of the Krell ship's hull broke open. Now they know we're serious, Laura said. Let's press the advantage while... A massive blast rocked the Intrepid. Red warning lights flashed everywhere. Direct hit to our port side, Alan reported, holding on to his station as the ship shook. Shields down to 40%. Laura gripped her chair. Return fire all weapons. The battle had truly begun, and somewhere on the planet below, billions of crystal people watched the sky, where 4 tiny human ships fought to save them from destruction. The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice. A tale. Every species remembers the battle above Rigel 7 had raged for 6 hours. Inside the starship Intrepid, smoke filled the bridge. Emergency lights cast red shadows on tired faces. Captain Laura, Hayes wiped blood from a cut on her forehead as she studied the tactical display. 3 Krell warships now showed heavy damage. 1 drifted without power. But the cost had been high. The Liberty had lost its main engines and was limping away from the fight. The Valor's captain reported 20 crew members dead after a direct hit to their lower decks. Shield status? Laura asked, her voice rough from shouting orders. Holding at 18%, Alan replied. His uniform was torn at the shoulder. But we can't take another direct hit, Laura nodded grimly. The human ships fought well, but they were too small to win against the massive Krell vessels. Yet they had achieved something important. The Krell had stopped bombing the planet to focus on the human threat. Captain, communications officer, Diane called out. I'm receiving a signal from the surface. The Zanari governor wants to speak with you. Put it through, Laura said. The main screen showed Governor Selith. The crystal being's normally smooth face had cracks running through it. Behind Selith, other Zanari moved quickly, carrying injured people. Captain Hayes, Selith said, voice tinkling like glass wind chimes. You came. The council said no one would come. We couldn't let you face this alone, Laura replied, but I don't know how much longer we can hold them off. Selith's crystal body caught the light as the governor leaned closer to the screen. You have already done what no one else would. You gave us time. Our deep shelters are now at 60% capacity. Every minute you keep fighting, thousands more reach safety. A loud explosion shook the ship before Laura could respond. Alarms blared. Direct hit to Deck 4. Ben shouted from weapons control. Shields failing. Governor will hold them as long as we can, Laura said quickly. Hayes out. The screen returned to showing the battle. Laura turned to Alan. We need a new strategy. Fighting them head-on isn't working anymore. Alan nodded, thinking fast. The Krell ships are powerful but slow to turn. If we could get them to chase us into the asteroid belt at the edge of the system, we might be able to outmaneuver them, Laura finished. She tapped her communication badge. Hayes to all ships. New plan. We're leading the Krell to the asteroid belt. Use the rocks for cover and hit-and-run attacks only. The remaining human ships acknowledged the order. They began to pull back, firing just enough to keep the Krell interested in following them. They're taking the bait, Jack reported from the science station. All functional Krell ships are following our retreat, Laura watched the distance to the asteroid belt shrink on her display. Good. Once we're in the belt, split up. Make them divide their forces. The human ships entered the asteroid field at high speed. They weaved between floating rocks the size of small moons. The much larger Krell ships had to move more carefully or risk collision. This is working, Alan said with cautious hope. They've split up to follow each of us. Laura nodded. Now for the hard part. Target the asteroids, not the ships. Ben looked confused for a moment, then understood. Yes, Captain. The Intrepid fired at a massive asteroid, breaking off chunks that tumbled toward the pursuing Krell ship. The other human vessels did the same. Soon, space was filled with flying rocks hitting Krell shields. Laura allowed herself a small smile. Humans knew about using the environment as a weapon. They had learned that lesson on Earth long ago. Captain, Diane suddenly called. Multiple new ships entering the system. Laura's smile vanished. More Krell? No, Diane said in surprise. They're Council ships. At least 30 of them. The main screen showed the new arrivals. Sleek, beautiful vessels with the Galactic Council symbol on their hulls moved toward the battle at high speed. We're being hailed, Diane reported. It's High Chancellor Thrix. Laura straightened her torn uniform and nodded. On screen, Chancellor Thrix appeared. His blue skin looked pale, and his antenna drooped with what seemed like shame. Captain Hayes, he said formally. The Council has voted. We are here to assist you in the defense of Rigel 7. Laura blinked in surprise. That's a very fast decision by Council standards, Chancellor. Thrix's antenna twitched. Your actions forced an emergency session. Many were outraged by your violation of protocol. He paused. Others were inspired. Inspired? Laura repeated. The Zanari ambassador showed us live feeds from the surface. 4 human ships against 7 Krell battlecruisers fighting to save people you barely know. Thrix looked uncomfortable. It made many of us question our protocols. Before Laura could respond, the ship rocked with another hit. We can discuss this later, she said. Right now we have Krell to deal with. Thrix nodded. Of course. Our ships are at your disposal, Captain Hayes. My disposal? Laura couldn't hide her shock. You have battle experience we lack, Thrix admitted. The Council fleet has not fought a real enemy in over 2,000 years. We would appreciate your guidance. Laura exchanged looks with Alan, who seemed equally surprised. Then she turned back to Thrix. Have your ships form into 3 groups. The first should go to the planet and set up a defensive line. The second should help our damaged vessels. The third will join us in the asteroid field. Thrix nodded and began, giving orders to his fleet. Over the next 2 hours, the combined human and Council forces surrounded the remaining Krell ships. The Council vessels were powerful, but their crews were inexperienced. Several times, human captains had to guide them away from danger or show them better attack positions. Finally, the last Krell battlecruiser powered down its weapons. The Krell commander appeared on screen again, now looking much less confident. We surrender, he hissed angrily. The Krell Imperium will withdraw. Chancellor Thrix responded from his ship. You will be escorted back to your territory. The Council will discuss proper punishment for this unprovoked attack. Unprovoked, the Krell commander growled. We watched for centuries as you grew weak. Too afraid to act, too slow to protect. The strong should rule, not hide behind meetings and votes. Strength isn't just about weapons or being willing to attack others, Laura cut in. Sometimes it's about being willing to defend those who cannot defend themselves, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous. The Krell commander stared at her with his yellow eyes. You are different from the others, human. Your species understands strength. We understand protecting people, Laura corrected him. There's a difference. After the Krell ships were secured, Laura ordered medical teams to the planet's surface. Dr. Sam Collins led the first group to help injured Zanari. On the bridge, Chancellor Thrix approached Laura. The Council leader looked at the damaged ship. Around him, the tired but proud human crew. Captain Hayes, he said quietly. I came to apologize. The council was wrong to dismiss the Zanari distress call. Laura nodded, too tired to hold on to anger. Thank you, Chancellor. You should also know, Thrix continued, that news of this battle has spread across council space. Many worlds are calling your crews heroes. We just did what humans do, Laura said simply. Thrix's antenna moved thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what the galaxy has been missing. The council brings wisdom and patience. But sometimes it seems we need the courage of Deathworlders to remind us why we formed the council in the first place, to protect all sentient life. As repair crews worked around them, Laura looked out at the stars. The day humans stopped playing nice had changed everything, but perhaps it had changed things for the better. The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice, a tale. Every species remembers, 2 weeks after the Battle of Rigel 7, Captain Laura Hayes stood in her dress uniform before the full Galactic Council. The Grand Chamber was more crowded than she had ever seen it. Representatives from all 37 member species attended, along with visitors and media from across the galaxy. Laura felt uncomfortable with all the attention. Her wounds had mostly healed, but she still felt tired. The Intrepid remained in dry dock for repairs. 17 crew members had died in the battle. The cost of doing the right thing had been high. High Chancellor Thrix raised his hands for silence, and the buzzing crowd grew quiet. This special session of the Galactic Council is now open, Thrix announced. We gather to address recent events and consider changes to our most basic laws. Laura watched as different council members spoke about the battle and its aftermath. Some praised the human ships for their bravery. Others complained about broken rules and dangerous precedents. The debate continued for hours. Finally, Chancellor Thrix called Laura forward. Captain Hayes, please address the council. Laura walked to the center of the room. The light scanner created her enlarged image for all to see. She took a deep breath. Thank you, Chancellor. I stand before you as someone who broke your highest law. I did this knowingly. I accept whatever punishment you decide. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Laura continued. But I want to be clear about why I acted. It wasn't to challenge your authority. It wasn't because humans enjoy fighting. It was because billions of lives were in danger and waiting meant their certain death. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of different species. On Earth we have a saying. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. The Krell attacked because they believed the Council would do nothing. They counted on your slow response. Chancellor Thrix's antenna moved. Slightly. Are you suggesting the Council is responsible for the attack? No, Laura said firmly. The Krell are responsible for their own actions. But I am suggesting that a system that values procedures over protection will eventually fail those it means to protect. An older council member stood up. Laura recognized him as Ambassador Zrel of the Forian species, one of the founders of the council. Captain Hayes, surely you understand our caution, Zrel said, his voice raspy with age. Before the council, this galaxy saw wars that destroyed entire civilizations. Our careful process prevents hasty actions that could lead to greater conflict. Laura nodded respectfully. I understand the fear behind your caution, Ambassador, but there must be balance. Right now, any aggressor knows exactly how to exploit your system, attack quickly, and count on the Council to debate while people die. The chamber fell silent as her words sank in. Then, surprisingly, a new voice spoke. Governor Seleth of the Zanari stepped forward. The crystal being's body still showed cracks from the attack. My people lived peacefully for 10,000 years, under council protection, Seleth said, voice ringing like glass bells. We believed in its wisdom and power, but when death came from the sky, the council discussed while humans acted. Seleth turned to face the entire assembly. 3 billion Zanari still live because these Deathworlders refuse to wait for permission to save lives. If this breaks your laws, then perhaps your laws need to change. Many council members shifted, uncomfortably. Others nodded in agreement. Chancellor Thrix spoke again. Captain Hayes, what would you suggest? Laura hadn't expected this question. She thought carefully before answering. Create a rapid response force. ships and crews trained to act quickly when lives are in danger. Give them authority to protect innocent people without waiting for a full council vote. And who would lead this force? Another member asked. Who decides when to act? Those who understand both diplomacy and decisive action, Laura replied. Representatives from all council species, but including humans and other Deathworld species who bring different skills to the team. Before anyone could respond, the chamber doors burst open. A messenger rushed in and whispered urgently to Chancellor Thrix. The Chancellor's blue skin paled. "We have just received word," Thrix announced, his voice shaking slightly. "The Krell have launched new attacks on 4 systems: Proxima, Vega, Tau Ceti, and Epsilon Indi. All are peaceful colonies with minimal defenses." The room erupted in shocked voices. Laura stepped forward again. "How long until the Council fleet can respond?" she asked. Chancellor Thrix checked his datapad. "Our main fleet is still being repaired after Rigel. Smaller defense groups could reach the systems in 2 to 3 days. "That's too long," Laura said. She tapped her communication badge. "Haze to Intrepid." Commander Alan Kelly's voice responded. "Kelly here, Captain." "Alan, contact the captains of every Earth ship within range of the attacked systems. Tell them we need emergency response. Also reach out to the Zanari defense ships. They may want to help." "Already done, Captain," Alan replied. "The Liberty, despite its damage, has changed course for Proxima. 15 other human vessels are moving to the other systems, and the Zanari have pledged their entire fleet. They say they're returning the favor." Laura looked up at the stunned council members. "We can argue about rules later. Right now, people need help." To her surprise, Ambassador Vizoth of the Arcturian Collective stood up. He had been one of the strongest critics of human involvement. "The Arcturian fleet will also respond," he announced formally. "Captain Hayes is right. This is not the time for debate." One by one, other council members offered their ships and support. Laura watched in amazement as species that had argued for caution just minutes before now pledged immediate action. Chancellor Thrix looked at Laura with new respect. "It seems, Captain, that you have started something larger than you intended. The Council will need to adapt more quickly than we are accustomed to." Laura nodded. "Change is never easy, Chancellor, but sometimes it's necessary." As the emergency session continued, Laura stepped aside to coordinate the response. Her communication badge beeped constantly with updates from human and alien ships rushing to the attacked systems. Outside the council chamber, news spread quickly across the galaxy. The story was the same on every planet. Deathworlders had changed the rules. In the face of danger, humans had refused to hide behind procedure, and now others were following their example. The old way of doing things was changing, and though many feared this change, many more welcomed it. For the first time, in thousands of years, the galaxy felt not just peaceful, but protected. The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice, a tale. Every species remembers, 6 months had passed since the Krell attacks began. The galaxy had changed in ways few could have imagined. Captain Laura Hayes stood by the large window in her new office on Nexus Station, the main headquarters of the Galactic Council. Outside, ships of many designs moved between the massive space station's docking areas. Laura watched as a small fleet departed. The ships included vessels from 12 different species, all painted with the new symbol of the Rapid Response Force, a starburst with a shield. Laura had helped design both the force and its symbol. Now she served as its first commander. A soft chime sounded at her door. "Enter," she called. Alan Kelly walked in, now wearing the uniform of a captain. The silver insignia on his chest caught the light. "The Krell delegation has arrived," he said. "They're waiting in the main conference room." Laura nodded. The Krell Imperium had finally asked for peace talks after losing battle after battle. Their attacks on peaceful worlds had backfired badly. Instead of finding easy targets and a slow council response, they had faced immediate, coordinated resistance. "How do they seem?" Laura asked as she walked with Alan toward the conference room. "Angry, confused," Alan replied. "They still don't understand what happened." Laura smiled slightly. They thought the galaxy would fall apart when pushed. Instead, it came together. They entered the conference room where representatives from 20 species sat around a large circular table. At one end, 3 Krell delegates waited. Their black scales looked dull and their yellow eyes darted nervously around the room. High Chancellor Thrix stood as Laura entered. His blue skin had a healthier color now, and his antenna stood straight with confidence. Commander Hayes, thank you for joining us. The peace negotiations can now begin. Laura took her seat between Thrix and Governor Seleth of the Zenari, the crystal being nodded to her in greeting. The cracks in Seleth's form had healed, leaving only faint lines that caught the light in beautiful patterns. The lead Krell delegate, Supreme General Vrax, spoke first. The Krell Imperium agrees to discuss terms of peace, he said reluctantly. We will return to our borders if the Council agrees to certain trade concessions. Chancellor Thrix looked to Laura before responding. This small gesture, a council, leader seeking a human's opinion first, would have been unthinkable a year ago. The Council has reviewed your requests, Thrix said calmly. Some trade agreements may be possible, but first you must agree to pay for rebuilding the worlds you attacked and face consequences for the lives lost. General Vrax hissed angrily. Consequences? We fought as warriors have always fought. We saw weakness and we struck. That is the way of the strong. Laura leaned forward. And yet you were defeated. What does that tell you about who was truly strong? The Krell general stared at her with hatred. We were not defeated by the Council's mighty fleet or superior weapons. We were defeated because you changed the rules. The Council was supposed to talk while we conquered. Instead, they fought. Everyone fought. Species that had not raised weapons in thousands of years suddenly attacked our ships. This was unexpected. That's what happens when you threaten people's homes and families, Laura said. Even the most peaceful beings will fight when they must. The difference is, they didn't want to fight. You gave them no choice. The peace talks continued for hours. By the end, a treaty was signed. The Krell agreed to withdraw to their original borders and pay compensation. In return, they received limited trade rights and recognition of their government. After the Krell delegation departed, Chancellor Thrix called for a private meeting with the main council representatives and Laura. The galaxy stands at a new beginning, Thrix said, looking around the room. For 10,000 years, the council maintained peace through careful rules and slow responses. We avoided conflicts, but sometimes at great cost. The Chancellor turned to Laura. Then humans arrived, Deathworlders who evolved on a planet that taught them to act quickly or die. We feared your ways at first. We thought you dangerous and impulsive. Laura smiled slightly. You weren't entirely wrong. We can be dangerous when threatened. Yes, Thrix agreed. But what we failed to understand was that same instinct that makes you protect yourselves also makes you protect others. You react quickly, not just from fear, but from compassion. Ambassador Vazoth, once Laura's harshest critic, nodded. The Arcturian Collective has studied human history since these events. You fight many wars among yourselves, yet you also rush into burning buildings to save strangers. You argue constantly, yet unite instantly when disaster strikes. You are complicated. All species are complicated, Laura replied. We just show it differently. Governor Seleth's crystal form caught the light. Whatever the reason, the galaxy now knows something it didn't before. When Deathworlders stop playing nice, they don't become monsters. They become protectors. Later that evening, Laura returned to her office. A message waited from Earth. President Olivia Clark's face appeared on the screen. Commander Hayes, congratulations on the peace treaty, the president said. Earth is proud of what you and the response force have accomplished. Thank you, Madam President, Laura replied. But this was a group effort. Many species contributed. Yes, but it was humanity that started it all. President Clark smiled. The Council has requested that we send more officers to train their crews. They specifically asked for Deathworlders with compassion. I think that's the finest compliment we've ever received. After finishing her calls, Laura looked out at the stars again. She thought about the chain of events that had brought her here. One decision to break the rules, one choice to protect instead of debate. And now the entire galaxy had changed. Her communication badge chimed. "Commander, we're receiving a distress call from the Omega sector," an officer reported. "A solar flare has disabled a mining colony's shields. They need immediate evacuation." "Alert the response force," Laura said without hesitation. "Have teams ready in 10 minutes. "Already done, Commander," the officer replied. "Ships from 7 species are preparing to launch." Laura smiled to herself as she headed for the door. The old council would have formed a committee to study the problem. But that was before they learned what humanity had always known. Sometimes the only acceptable response to suffering was immediate action. As she walked quickly toward the launch, Laura passed aliens of many species rushing to their stations. All different, all unique, but they shared something new now. The understanding that rules existed to protect people, not the other way around. The day Deathworlders stopped playing nice had become a story every species remembered. Not as the beginning of chaos, as many had feared, but as the day the galaxy remembered what it meant to truly care for one another, to protect, to serve, to act when action was needed. And that was a lesson worth learning, even if it came from the most dangerous planet in known space.